All right. Okay. And we are live. Good evening, everyone, and welcome in. Welcome in. We've had a break for a few weeks, and so very happy to be back. So go ahead. If you're already in here, go ahead and share the link. You can share it here and share it on Facebook. But welcome in. And we are so excited about this evening's show. We're here for episode 14 of Talks with V. Talks with V, and we're streaming live here with the HBCU Lounge Network. So, welcome. And this evening's show, we are talking about, are your relationship goals realistic? So, I know some people, a lot of people are like, oh, that's a good topic, So, I think most of us can relate at some point or time in our life. We know that maybe we weren't all the way realistic about our relationship goals and what it is that how we've seen our relationship or our marriage. So I'm excited to talk about this topic. And so our panelists that we have today are experts on advising couples and are here to today to help us keep it real. Welcome, Shawnee. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce first we have Dr. Dyona Augustin. Did I say that right?
Augustin.
Augustin. Okay, I'm so sorry.
It's
All
okay.
right.
You're good.
PhD licensed psychologist. And then we have Pastor Christopher Brown, husband, father, and friend. And so the both of these two bring so much value to the conversation. I've had the pleasure to be in spaces and hear them speak. And I was just very excited about everything that I learned and wanted to have them come on and share their views with us and answer questions. So, just to let you guys know, we will be going over different questions. And if you have questions, just please throw them in the chat and we will do our best to get those questions answered for you. And I'll give us an opportunity somewhere in the middle or towards the end. Okay. So welcome in, welcome to the both of you. At this time, I would like to you guys to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the people a little bit about what you do and how long you've been doing it. So, Dr. Ziona, if you can go ahead and let us know about you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Dyona. I'm so glad that I get a chance to be here with all of you tonight. First of all, I wanted to say thank you, V. Bailey, for actually having me on. I'm looking forward to participating with you and Pastor Christopher on this panel because I do think it's a topic that needs to be discussed. There are plenty of questions about it. So I'm looking
Mhm.
forward to that aspect of it. And just to give you a little background about myself, I'm a licensed psychologist working in South Florida. I started a private practice with my sister, Dr. Joe, who is also a psychologist, just
Wow.
because we noticed that there was a lack of culturally competent care in our community. So we
Mm.
wanted to do what we could to ensure that everybody has access to culturally competent mental health services. And we have a special heart for women, but especially women of color. So, of
Mm.
course, I'm
Okay.
glad that I get to participate in this panel, and I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, welcome. And last but not least, we have Pastor Christopher Brown. Pastor, tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, I got to kind of start right where the good doctor left off at. Thank you, Ms. V, because anytime you share your platform with someone, you are giving that person influence to your particular audience. And so
Yeah.
I never want to take that lightly. So first off, I just got to give honor where honor is due. Thank you for allowing me to share the platform with both you and Dr. Augustine. I'm gonna get that right. I promise you.
Yes.
So I've been an ordained pastor since 2017. I've been in ministry for the past 16 plus years. I've helped copious amounts of individuals with relationship, marriages, etc., from other pastors to also include other husbands and wives and relationships in general. I am married to my lovely wife, Sherelle Brown. Shout out to her. for allowing me to even do this, because I get permission before. I don't just jump into something without permission. So we've been married 11 years. That is
Wow.
4,273 days, I believe, somewhere along in there.
Okay.
And so we have 4 beautiful kids. She just asked for another kid the other day. So I must be doing something right. Um, I started out in the Marine Corps. I did 10 years in the Marine Corps. I did another 10 years at the Pentagon, and now I work for the Department of Commerce for our very own Mr. President Biden. So I've been doing this for a while. Some people don't believe that I'm 43 years of age, but I am, and I love this. So I tell them 2 things you want to do to stay looking young. Love God, love your wife. That's it. You keep those 2 in their parties, you'll be okay. So thanks again for having me.
All right, absolutely. Anytime, anytime. Well, this conversation, I've had plenty of conversations with different people who are married, single, in between, questioning if they want to get married or not. But in a lot of these conversations, we touch on some things, and when you have friends and when they're your real friends, they have to keep you, bring you back to earth, because sometimes we're unrealistic. We're like, oh, well, this is
Yep.
what I want, and this is what I how I see it. And it's just like, well, you're connecting with a whole nother individual, and you have to consider
Mhm.
what what their needs are and what their wants are as well, and see if you guys can meet somewhere in the middle. And so I wanted to have this conversation. And first, I want to start with our first question, and that is, what are some of the misconceptions about marriage?
Oh,
And
Doc,
I
I'm
mean,
going to turn it over to you. Go for it.
Okay.
okay.
All right. So when it comes to what are some of the misconceptions about marriage, I think a lot of times we see marriages in the media, on TV, in
Mm,
movies, in books, and we kind of think that it's this lovey-dovey fairy tale kind of story. We love the person, it's us against the world, and we're just going to go out and do our thing. But the
right.
reality is, marriage is hard work. So, one
Mm,
of the biggest misconceptions about marriage is that marriage is, because you love each other, it's supposed to be easy. But the
mm,
reality is, when you're blending 2 completely different people's lives, different likes, different dislikes, different expectations with regards to gender roles, with regards
mm,
to finances, and so on and so forth, there's going to be a period of adjustment and transition. So sometimes when people get married and then they start to have these little, areas where they kind of bump heads, they can
mm,
start to think, oh my God, maybe I married the wrong person, as
right.
opposed to recognizing it's actually normal that
Mhm,
in the beginning of the marriage, there's going to be a period of time that's a little bit rocky as you guys adjust to each other. And
mm,
then over time, marriage is still going to entail some level of work. Not to say that it's supposed to be like torture or horrible or anything like that,
right.
but it does require some intentionality on both of your parts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree 110%. I like to always start out with words themselves. The
Mhm.
Mm,
word misconception means a faulty way of thinking, which
mm,
means someone has given you some information off the top that is wrong and it's incorrect. So to
Mhm.
right.
jump on the same side of what Doc was saying, I wrote a few things here. You can never be faced with an issue that challenges you to the place of leaving. See, there's something that
Mm,
is called infatuation, right?
mhm,
Infatuation will have you overlook things that you need to pay more attention to.
Yes.
absolutely.
Um, I put this down. Infatuation will have you to look past things you need to see, but fully digest things you don't need.
Mm,
So when we look through the lens of infatuation, we invite all of these great misconceptions in, right? Only
Mhm.
to set ourselves up.
right.
Another one I put, you won't see anyone more attractive than the one that you're with. That's a misconception right there. That's a faulty way of
Mm,
thinking.
Mhm.
Your spouse can do no wrong. When you first start out, they bad breath smell good. Everything they do is right.
He's like, I love it. I'm gonna kiss you anyway.
But then when we pass down that infatuation stage, it's like, hey, hold up, won't you go take care of that before you come back over here, right?
Right.
Having kids will bring us closer. That's an infatuation. Excuse me, and a misconception. And know what to say and do to make your spouse happy. You will always know what to say or do to make them happy. All of those are just a few misconceptions, Miss V.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good because those are a lot of the things that you run into. Just, I mean, with me, I'm not married, but I always hear from my married friends. They're like, take your time, don't rush into it, because if I would have known, the things that I know now, and it's just like, oh, that's kind of
Yes.
scary. But they're happy, they appreciate their marriage, but they're just a lot of times they're like, I didn't know a lot of the things that I thought I knew. And so I thought that everything that you guys said is great because that is a lot of time the misconception, where you just jump into it and you think it's going to be happy days and it's not always going to be happy days. So it's
And can
Well,
okay.
I
I think
just
that's
piggyback? Oh, I'm sorry, Pastor
no,
Christopher.
no,
Go
no.
ahead.
Go right ahead. You got it.
Yeah,
Go
no,
for
I
it.
was just going to say I wanted to piggyback on something that you talked about, which was that infatuation stage. And
Mm.
one of the things I always tell couples when I see them for therapy, whether it's marital counseling or just relationship counseling, that infatuation phase lasts only but for so long.
Right.
In
Mm.
general, that stage lasts for 18 months. So you get a
Wow.
year and a half of bliss before everything goes to
That's
what.
crazy.
Not going to say the word, okay? But basically, you have to recognize that when you're in that infatuation phase, as Pastor Christopher said, it is very easy to brush things under the rug. Oh, that's not a big deal. Oh, I can handle that. But what I
Right.
often tell people, especially before they get married, if the person stays like this forever, could you still commit to them?
Mm.
Don't get married thinking that the person is all of a sudden going to change a new leaf. That's not realistic. And that is
Mhm.
also a misconception about marriage.
See, Dr. Augustin, and I don't want to get ahead of Miss V because I think that's going to tie into is your happiness your partner's responsibility. So
Mm-hmm.
to tag along with that, this
Mm-hmm.
is what I wrote down for infatuation by definition: an
Mm.
intense but short-lived passion or admiration for someone or something. It's short-lived. And I think
Mm.
what happens is we get away from the basics. Just like a moment ago, when you
Right.
and I both started to talk, if both of us continue to try to do something, it's going to be a car accident. Somebody has to submit.
Right.
Yes.
So,
True.
and see, we get away from that basic because of the infatuation. No, here we are 11 years later, and a lot of times I have to submit and allow my wife to get out what she wants to say because you
Mm.
go into a bottleneck, right?
Right.
And if
Mm-hmm.
you
Right.
just say, you know what, hey, babe, you go first, even if I've heard it 10 times, 11 won't hurt nothing. But when we
Well.
focus in on happiness, what
Mm-hmm.
we do is we focus in on what's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
See, I
Hmm.
don't shoot for happy. I shoot for joy because
Yep.
joy contains happy, but happy don't contain joy.
Mm-mm.
Right.
And people get caught up in the moment and they're happy. Well, what about when the moment is not going like you wanted to go? See, when I'm joyful, I can be happy even in unhappy times.
Mm.
Yes.
Yep.
That's the difference.
Yes, absolutely. My old pastor, he used to say that. He preached a whole message on it. He said, well, happiness is based on the happenings. And so that was the
Mm-hmm.
first time that I really like actually thought about it and learned that like it's fleeting. So you may feel happy now, but you're not always, happy. And joy is, it's real. It's more, sustainable. But
Mm-hmm.
but just like you said, joy includes the happiness, but happiness doesn't include the joy. And so that's a great point. But yeah, and so I had another one, but I will bring it up later because it slipped my mind. But to add to what we were talking about. But next, wanted to ask, how do we prevent disappointment?
Mhm.
Because I know a
That's a
lot of
good
times
one. Pastor Christopher, you want to start?
Absolutely. Throw me the alley hoop. I'll shoot it. Okay. How do we prevent disappointment? And see, I'm smart. I asked my wife what she thought before I came on here. See, you got to be smart with this thing. See,
Mhm.
uh,
Right.
one of the first things she said, be proactive.
Mm.
That talked to me right there.
Yes.
See, when you be proactive, you get ahead of the situation and you can evaluate the issue. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things she shared with me, she says, I already know what you want. So if I already know what you want, I can prevent disappointments. Now, you're not going to prevent all disappointments, because one thing that we have to understand, we're all continuing to grow. And
Mhm.
Right.
like what one of your friends said, if I'd have known this, I don't know. No, you have to accept the beauty of that and say, no, I didn't stay in the same place. I
Mm-hmm.
grew. And
Right.
what comes with growth? One word we're afraid of: change. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to change. Oh my goodness, she had a baby. One day she liked peanut butter and bananas. The next day she can't stand it. If you understand that change is going to be evident from the beginning, you can prevent disappointment.
Right. No,
Yes.
absolutely. And then and the expectate what I learned as well is the managing the expectations.
Mhm.
Um, because that was a big one. Anytime I felt disappointment, it was because I had these expectations already, and I put these different people, I could say on a pedestal, of some sort. And
Mm.
once you do that, then it's kind of like they're so far up here, you don't even know if that person is actually equipped to do those things. And so it leads to that disappointment. But I would
Yeah.
love to hear from you, Dr. Dion.
Yeah, one thing that I would suggest, and I know that in the society that we live in, we're all about personal fulfillment and happiness, but I
Mm,
would actually say don't try to prevent disappointment, because
mm,
disappointment is a part of life. So, one
mm,
of the things you have to recognize in every relationship, your partner, your friend, your family member, your coworker, your
mhm,
church member, they will disappoint you. Why?
mm.
Because we're human.
Right. It's
I
true.
don't see the world the way Pastor Christopher sees the world. Pastor Christopher doesn't see the world the way V. Bailey sees the world, and
Yeah.
vice versa. So,
Right.
disappointment, you have to recognize that's a part of life. That's not something that can be avoided. What you
Mm,
can do, however, is learn from the disappointment. So,
mm,
in order to learn from the disappointment, you have to actually take the time to look at the patterns, okay?
mm,
To figure out what led to the disappointment. Was this an unspoken expectation where, for example, I see women do this a lot? They
mm,
kind of expect the man to read their mind and
mhm.
anticipate their need. Whereas the guy's kind of like, he's just sitting there watching TV, watching sports, just, enjoying himself. He has no idea that the woman or whoever he's dating had all of these things in mind for what he was supposed to do and what he was
Right.
supposed to say and how he was supposed to say it. So then the woman gets disappointed because she's thinking, "Oh, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about me, or
Mhm.
he's not, trying to meet my needs." But in reality, sometimes it's just that the person doesn't know. So
Mhm.
rather than seeing disappointment as something to be avoided,
Mhm.
recognize that it is a part of every relationship. What is
Right.
important is, what do we learn from the disappointment? Have a conversation with your partner or your friend or whoever. Say,
Mhm.
this happened. It made me feel X way. Was this your intent? At which
Mm,
point that gives the person an opportunity to clarify and say, "Oh my God, no, I didn't know that you were going to feel that way." They can apologize, and then the two of you guys can reconcile. But if you're
right.
trying to actively avoid disappointment, it's like chasing your tail. Like, you're not going to get where you would like to go.
Right.
And
Right.
to add to that, I want to take it up to another tier. Did you and I know that disappointment is a choice? You have to choose. You have to pick
Yeah.
up disappointment and carry it with you. See, disappointment deals with feelings,
Mhm.
and feelings provide data. They should not dictate directions.
Mhm.
Mm.
Feelings
That's
will
good.
provide data, but they should not dictate direction. So I'm gonna give you all a little story in the Brown household. So my wife wanted this phone. She's an Android user, and so she told me the model. I went to the store, but the day I walked in the store, Miss B, they said we got the latest version. So I'm like, boy, I'm in there tonight. I'm gonna chase her around the house. I know what this is about. This is God. And I bought that phone. I like to have fun. Is my fun okay? My fun is clear.
It's good. It's
I
good.
I got that phone, and I'm talking about, I'm whistling Dixie back in the house the whole way. I get in there. She say that ain't what I asked for.
Mm.
That
I say,
happens.
no, babe, but they just dropped this. They they just put this out. I didn't even have to stand in line. I just happened to go into the store. She said,
Yep.
I didn't ask you for the 7. I wanted the 6. Now
Hmm.
I felt disappointed because of my thinking. Now I
Right.
don't care if they come out with something new. I go get exactly what she asked for so we can alleviate that. But as
Mhm.
the more I grow, the more I realize I
Yeah.
don't have to pick up disappointment. I
Mhm.
can
Mhm.
leave disappointment right over there where it's at and keep going on with my normal day.
Right. And
Yeah.
that is awesome, taking advantage of that opportunity to learn, let that be a learning opportunity, and then, you know, course correcting, right? But it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I think a lot of us ladies end up, like experience that. I've had that experience where it was just like, okay, could you go to the grocery store and get XYZ, right?
Mm.
And then my guy, he goes to the grocery store and gets a whole bunch of other stuff that I didn't ask for. And then, because he was so, I guess, thought he was doing something by getting all these things, he didn't even get the correct thing that I had asked. And so I was upset. And then he's mad at me for being upset with him. I'm like, how can I be happy when you came home with, like you didn't come home with what I asked for?
Mhm.
Now I have to rearrange plans, do something different because you didn't basically follow through. And then you're upset because you're like, well, I got 10 things and I knew you was going to need this and that. And it's like that. Thank you. I appreciate those things, but
Mhm. Yeah.
you didn't bring what I asked for. And so I was disappointed. I'm like, but I
Yeah.
guess he wanted me just to still be happy and not mention it. I don't know
Mhm.
what I was supposed to respond like, but I was like, no, this is not it.
Yeah, it sounds like he probably wanted some appreciation for what he
Mhm.
did get, but he
Mhm.
kind of missed out on the fact that the main thing she asked you for was the thing that you didn't get right,
Right.
which of course is going to lead to the disappointment, maybe
Right.
even the frustration.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that I was going to add, going back to the example that Pastor Christopher just shared, I think it was a great one just because I see that a lot in
Mhm.
couples or in relationships where a person gets something that they think is better than what the person
Mhm.
originally asked for. And
Right.
sometimes what we don't recognize is happening is we're making the decision based on what we would have wanted. So, not
Exactly.
saying that's the case for Pastor Christopher,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I have seen couples where they get a gift based on what they would like, as
Mhm.
opposed to putting themselves in their partner's shoe and
Mhm.
asking, what kind of gift would this person like? So
Mhm.
you always have to be thinking in a relationship, not just from your perspective, but
Mhm.
from your partner's perspective, which is something that helps to prevent that disappointment.
But
And
God,
that's
one
just
of the
getting. Oh, sorry. Sorry,
yeah,
sorry. I was going to say, and that's about getting to know, like, as we're learning each other, because I've
Yes.
heard people say they've been married for 20 years and they're still like learning, things about their partner, and that's a big one, because we think sometimes that someone else may think like us, and we don't, and that's that reoccurring thing that lets us down. It's just like, why do we do that? Like, you've been on this earth 30 something years and you have not realized that everybody don't think like you. And that's one for
That's
me I
true.
had to learn, is that everybody's not thinking like that. I used to think it was normal. I was like, oh, doesn't everyone do this? And they're like, no, that's not my first thought. And because some of my
Mhm.
friends are saying, like, I admire this about you. I'm like, but why? Like, don't you do this? And they're like, no. So it's
Mhm.
like, okay,
That's
I
true.
get it. I get it. But go ahead, Pastor Chris.
no, just to jump in there with you all. See, it's 2 words I think that a lot of people are somewhat afraid of in a relationship:
Mhm.
change and train. My
Mm-hmm.
wife has me trained. I know what she like, what she don't like. I have her trained. There's a 4 T that we utilize in our household: time, temper, tone, and touch.
Mm.
Is this the right timing to bring up an issue? How is my tone? How is my temper? I'm going through my internal Rolodex, right, to make sure that the environment, and last touch. Because if
Mm.
I touch her, it sends off a loving statement. I'm not
Right.
here to be against you. I'm
Mhm.
here with you. And what I mean by the train piece is you have to unpack stuff.
Mhm.
You can't just send us to the store and tell us to bring back some spaghetti sauce that you think we know we've been eating.
You got to
We
send
have to
pictures.
ask. Yeah,
Send
you
the
got to send
pictures.
pictures. You got to send those pictures.
Mhm.
I
Cause
learned. I
look,
learned. I learned a little
cause
something.
I'm not a person that cooks. So first
Mhm.
of all, I get in Safeway and I'm in there for 45 minutes and I done walk past the stuff like 5 or 6 times, right?
Mhm.
So and then I get a substitute. But if you train me properly, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Then guess what? I can bring back exactly what you want. When we
Mhm.
vacuum the floors, you better learn how to flip that wrist and put them beads in that carpet because y'all hit the ceiling about that type of stuff, you know. Well,
Mhm.
I'm where I'm
That is
from,
true. You like to see
where
the
I'm from,
grooves. You're like, ooh,
right? I
Yes.
like to see
it's
the groove.
clean
He took
here.
some time. Exactly. But
Mhm.
I learned most importantly,
Yeah.
when you take out the time to train me
Mhm.
Mm.
and I can deliver what you want,
Mm.
it sets a different environment in the household, right?
Mm.
But if you
Good.
haven't trained me, you can't get mad at me.
Mhm.
Mm.
And sometimes in
Good.
relationship, we want to get mad and we didn't train.
Mhm.
Mm. That's good. Yeah, there's a lot of people who, and I know we've heard it, where they're like, I don't, I'm too grown for that. Like, I'm tired. Like, I don't feel like training nobody. I'm not, training nobody up. They should already be where they need to be. And it's just not true because, yeah, you
Mhm.
can be a certain place in life, but when, two people come together, I got to learn your ways and you got to learn my ways, my little quirks and different things like that. And so, I guess that's something that just kind of comes over time with maturity and learning like,
Mhm.
okay, this didn't work out the way, I desired it to work out. So maybe I should do something different. So,
I also think, just to add to what Pastor Christopher said, that
mhm.
is one of the biggest red flags I see when couples are getting into relationships.
Hmm,
You want a partner who has a teachable spirit.
that's
If
good.
you notice that every single time you bring up a concern or feedback to your partner about something they said or did that you didn't like, or you would have preferred it done a different way, and they always get super defensive, or they always make it seem like you're the problem, that is a red flag that tells you if you marry this person, you're not going to be able to teach them anything. And when I say teach, it's just same word Pastor Christopher said, train.
Mhm,
It's
mhm,
you're getting to learn your partner. Like I
mhm.
once heard Dr. Tony Evans say, you should have a PhD in your partner.
Come
But
on.
if a person doesn't have a teachable spirit because they're incredibly arrogant and they think they know
Mhm,
everything and they assume you should just go with what they want, that is a
mhm.
red flag and it is something that will doom your relationship.
Right.
Absolutely.
What's interesting is just maybe like a few days ago, I was in a conversation. I said, you know what? I think we should learn our partners like they're an alien, like they're from a whole nother planet, I mean, because then it kind of takes all the pressure off, like, hey, I need to learn you everything about you. And I think that, I mean, essentially, if you become one, let's say if you're getting married, to this person, you become one. So shouldn't I know, about me? And so that's the same thing how you have to look at it with your partner is let me learn you like I know me. In some cases, some people don't know them. And so I think that that's another thing why, we can struggle because we're like, I don't even know me. I can't take out the time to learn you. Yeah. It kind of hits you like, wait a minute, do I even know me? All of me. Have I accepted that, piece? Doctor, sorry, Pastor Christopher, did you have something to say, or I was going to go into our next question? Or did you have
Just to
something to
add
say?
on to that, set my mind is set on two dials. Dial number one, I'm sold out, so I won't look for a way out. If she
Mm,
leave me, I'm going with her. We gonna find a way to get over this. And most importantly, dial number two, go in the relationship always thinking I'm gonna always be learning her. That never
mm,
ends. It
right.
Mhm.
never stops, and you're gonna always be learning him. It never stops. That's all I want to add.
Mhm.
That's very good. Very good. All right. So next, we mentioned this, but this is the next question: is your happiness your partner's responsibility? And that's one that I think. kind of falls under the misconceptions as well,
Yes.
that we have about, our marriage, and I think our partners. So yeah, let's dive into that. Is your happiness your partner's responsibility? You can go ahead and
Go
take
ahead, Doc. Go for it.
that.
Yeah, when it comes to that question, I actually think the media plays a big role in that,
Mm,
especially with the way that they portray relationships, where it's like this person just came to perfectly fit into your life and they're going to know exactly what you want and need before you need it, and they're just going to give it to you. So it
mhm,
has people going into relationships thinking a partner or a relationship is supposed to make me happy. If the relationship isn't making me happy, then I need to leave. As
mm,
opposed to recognizing your happiness is strictly your responsibility. And
absolutely.
what people often do, they don't just do this with relationships, they do this with everything. If I
Hmm.
have this relationship, I'll be happy. If I get this job, I'll be happy. If I make X amount of money, I'll be happy. If I have a child, I'll be happy. But what they
Hmm.
don't recognize is you have to be able to get to the point of happiness independent of those things. And I'm
Right.
using the word happiness, but more so the joy, that
Hmm.
quality that is enduring, that is stable, that is
Hmm.
not affected by negative external factors. Because once you get to that point, different storms of life may hit you and you may definitely recoil, but you'll
Hmm.
bounce back. But
Mm,
if you go
yeah.
into a relationship thinking this person is supposed to make me happy, then the minute those happy feelings fade, you are going to check out of the relationship.
Absolutely. That's I think the space that a lot of singles are in, right now, is just that looking for that microwavable relationship that, you're just gonna pop it in there and it's gonna be perfect immediately. And when it's not, it's just like bye. It's the ghosting phase, which is lasting a little long. So, but yeah. And Pastor Chris.
Yeah, yeah, you utilize the term microwave. Again, I'm from the South where they really like to cook. This thing has to be crock pot ready, right?
That's right.
One thing about a crock pot, it needs an aroma in the house. The
Yeah.
neighbors come over, hey, what's that smell? What are you cooking? So,
Right. You're
so
right.
nothing is rarely something that's good for you if you have to utilize the microwave to
Mhm,
cook it. And I
mhm,
kind of relate happy with the microwave, right? And
Mhm.
that's why I
mhm,
mentioned joy, and I'm piggybacking off of the doctor. I
mhm,
mentioned joy earlier because joy is the top tier. But
Mhm.
mhm,
some people think that happy is the top tier. It's
mhm.
not. It should be a subcategory of
Mhm.
joy itself. So
Right.
if you know what they say, if you shoot for the stars, you hit the sky, like you at least hit the clouds or something.
Yeah.
So I want to shoot for joy because
Right.
at the end of the day, I'm responsible for my happiness. I'm responsible for that joy, right? And I can change up the environment. You ever, Dr. V, you ever walked into a room and changed up the environment because you on the scene?
You said
See,
Dr. V. So
yeah, yeah. I put
You
doctor on there.
combined
Both of
us.
y'all are doctors in my book. Yeah.
I'm like,
I,
hey, I'll take it.
see when you know who you are and you walk
Yeah.
into a room, so you you can walk into a room and people will stop doing what they doing and look at you.
Mhm.
It's
Hmm.
not
That's
cocky.
true.
It's just you know who you are, and
Hmm.
happy doesn't have anything to do with that.
Mhm.
Right.
It's the persona that you carry. It's the posture. I think that word posture means to walk like you got an attitude without having one.
Mhm.
And when you
That's
walk into a
good.
people know. So I'm piggybacking off of completely of what she said. I 100% agree.
Mhm.
Yes, that confidence, and just to add to what you guys are talking about with that knowing yourself,
Mhm.
um, and also with knowing yourself, then you can kind of, it's almost like you're more present too. You can be more present in situations, and you don't have those expectations for other people to make you happy when you know yourself and when you love yourself, because you already kind of know the direction that you're going.
Mhm.
But when you don't and you're expecting it from someone else, your head is always on the swivel, as they say. You're always looking for something, and you're always, I think, in a space of fear, because at that point in time, you've given the control to someone else. So you're now out of control. And so that's just something that, popped into my mind as you guys were speaking. So calling those things to be as they know they were. Yes, speaking into existence. Absolutely. And I was going to say, what about fulfillment? I always think of fulfillment as well with joy. Is like, just being fulfilled. Um, because I just feel like that's a permanent thing. It just something that's within, and you just exude it. You exude that joy. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Doctor? I also what I actually my question is why do you think that we expect others to be responsible for our happiness?
I mean, I think that's the message that we get, not necessarily explicitly, but implicitly in a lot of the media. And
Mm-hmm.
also when people talk about relationships, the way they talk about it, it's almost like as if they see the relationship like going into Walmart and you tell them exactly what you want, and then you get a cart, you take those things, and then you just ride out, as opposed to recognizing relationships take work. So you can't
Mm-hmm.
expect your partner to make you happy, just like you can't expect your partner to fulfill you. You have to find fulfillment in something beyond yourself. Because the reality is, the things here on this earth, they're
Right.
going to fade away.
Yeah.
No matter if you have six, seven, eight figures in your bank account, when you're dead, you can't take that with you. So
Right.
that fulfillment has to be something that goes above things that you can just touch. It
That's
has to be
good.
things that are personally meaningful to you in terms of being in line with your values,
Mm,
in terms of what is your purpose, like what do you believe you were called to do or accomplish in this world. So, for example,
right.
talks with V, that could be
Mhm.
something that helps you to feel personally fulfilled,
Yeah.
having necessary conversations and creating a space where people can ask their questions and bounce ideas off of each other. So for me, it can't be something that you look for your partner to do. It has to be something that you find for yourself, and then a
Mm.
partner will walk with you in that path.
I love that, because it's like what you're saying is that it'll live on, and
Mhm.
looking, to be fulfilled with things that, will end. It's kind of like it's just like the happiness, piece. It's fleeting, it's not permanent. But if I'm fulfilled within my purpose or whatever it is that I'm creating, that will live on once I'm gone, like you said, talks with V. Whenever I go, it'll be somewhere in the cloud.
Yes.
It'll
That
be
is
out there,
true.
on the web. So
Mhm.
so I
Mhm.
totally I got you. I got you with that. Um, let's see. Okay, so I think we kind of touched on this when we said this question is about what are the dangers in the statement "you complete me." Because I feel like we
Mhm.
talked about complete me, but what's the dangers in that?
Pastor Christopher, did you want to start?
Oh, absolutely. So I think the danger is this. This is what I have. My mate don't complete me, but
Mm,
she's compatible.
Mhm.
okay.
You should walk in the relationship already complete.
Mhm.
When you're compatible, you're capable of existing together to make a form of harmony.
Mm,
You know, a tire is complete. You just add it to the car,
hmm.
right? But the tire is the tire. It is what it is. The
Mhm.
responsibility of the tire is to connect with something else so there's an harmony. But
Mhm.
you
Mm,
can't get them more, you can't get any more out of the tire than what it is supposed to be, right?
right.
So
Mhm.
I went on to say, now we should have at least compliment over complete. Because when we
Mm,
compliment,
Yes.
that's a flattering remark or expression of admiration.
Mhm.
So
I love
so
it.
she, so he or she walks alongside you in your completeness, and you both perform a harmony that neither one of you can do alone.
Mm.
Mhm.
That's really
Yeah.
good. That's something that I had learned in one of my relationships. I felt like it was hard. Well, it was hard, but I learned so much. But what I gained from that is that the next time, a partner, what is needed for me, to be my best in that is to be able to respect that man and admire him.
Mhm.
And where I got that from is just like when I think about respect and admiration, the way that you show up. When there's someone that you respect and admire, you don't come just slacking and just lazy with it like I guess I'll do this, whenever I get around to it. You come and you show up 100%. And so that, always stuck with me. So when you said admiration, that just made me smile because that was something I was like, yes, I know I have to do that. Because if I'm with someone and I don't respect them, or the respect just starts to die, it's just like it is not gonna work,
Yeah.
and so just thinking about that going into the relationship as I'm getting to know a person, can I respect you? Like, are you someone, I mean, because there's a general respect, but respect you as a partner, as a person who's leading me.
Mhm.
And if that's not the case, it's just like, don't do it. Do not do it because it's going to show up in those arguments, when you don't respect someone. So yeah.
Another thing I was going to say with regards to what Pastor Christopher said, I love the word that you use, compliment. To me, that
Mhm.
is the goal. And when it comes to the danger of the statement, you complete me, what I found is a lot of times when a person comes in for therapy and they have this perspective that their partner is supposed to complete them, they
Mhm.
have a lot of emotional voids. And people who
Mhm.
have a lot of emotional voids, there are things in childhood that they did not receive, so when they get into relationships, rather than just being in the relationship and enjoying their partner, what they're really trying to do is get healed by their partner. But what that does is it creates a lot of unrealistic expectations and it
Mhm.
sets them up for failure because they come from a traumatic or a neglectful home environment. They have these unrealistic expectations of their partner, which makes them a little bit more needy, a little bit more clingy. And then when the person naturally cannot meet those expectations, it
Right.
sends them down this dark tailspin. So
Right.
I would say the biggest danger of that statement is a lot of times it is people who have voids that have not been addressed and they're trying to figure out how to get the void addressed in a relationship as
Mhm.
opposed to figuring out you actually have to do the work, preferably before you get into a relationship. So this
Yeah.
is where therapy comes in. This is where pastoral counseling comes in, actually talking to someone
Mhm.
about those voids. Your dad wasn't there, your mom wasn't there, or you were raised with your family, but they were emotionally neglectful. They never told you they loved you, they never showed you that they cared about you. You
Yeah.
have to address those voids before you get into a relationship, or even while you're in a relationship, so that you don't put unrealistic expectations on your partner.
Yeah,
That's
Dr. Augustin, to your,
good.
to your point,
Mhm.
um, I like how you said it because um, my spouse and I received counseling or therapy on the front
Mhm.
end, right? And
Mhm.
then even now, 11 years later, it's like, okay, let's go back and read. I like to put up the traffic light before there's an accident,
Mhm.
right? And so I
Right.
want to, I really, I tip my hat to what you said because
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of people understand the importance when you come together with someone, chances are extremely high
Mhm.
they bring in a wall from a previous relationship that they now want you to tear down.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm. They
And
want you to
now
rescue them. They're
they
like,
want you to
rescue
rescue them.
me. No one rescue me. So now it's your
Right.
responsibility because you're my
Exactly.
man or you're my wife. Yeah.
Yes. And what I love about a great therapist or a great counselor is you all are designed to pull out stuff we didn't even know we had in us.
Mhm.
See,
Very true.
one thing about a pastor think that they're sometimes talking to the person and they're really talking to the child that was molested on the playground.
Mm.
The person has checked out in their mind, right? And
I
you
got you.
think that they're listening, but they're actually revisiting the trauma that has
Mm.
taken place years ago before coming to that particular ministry, right?
Mhm,
So
Right.
mhm.
one thing I love about you all are designed to ask questions that we didn't even consider. And
Mm.
then you have to start saying, oh, I didn't even know. You're not even aware of some of the things that take place till you get in a relationship with a person. You're like,
Mhm.
I didn't know I had that. I didn't know I had that in me. So
Mhm.
just to
Mhm.
tag along to that particular statement, the importance of you all is outstanding and is so much needed so people can identify the walls that they may know about or may not even
Right.
have a clue about.
Mhm.
Right. That's so good. My old pastor used to, I remember I was actually going through that rough relationship that I had mentioned. And the pastor had said, have you ever met someone that brought out a monster inside you that you didn't know existed? And everybody was like, yeah, yeah, I know about that. I know about that. He was just like, well, don't be mad at them. He said, you thank them because they brought it to your attention that there is that side of you that you were unaware of, and now you can check it and move on.
Mm.
And that was so good because I never heard it heard
Yeah,
it that way. And a lot of times, we're going through life because we haven't gone through certain stages yet in life, and we're like, oh, I'm pretty good, I don't have any issues until you get into those real relationships and those
yep.
different levels of intimacy, and then you start seeing like, oh, I guess I'm not as perfect as I thought.
What Miss B, I got a true example for you.
Mhm.
A buddy of mine, his wife had an affair.
Wow.
And normally, when an affair takes place, one thing about the other individual, they don't stick around long enough to find out why,
To find out
Mhm.
what it was, yeah.
because their feelings are already telling them check out.
Mhm.
Mm.
This individual, and I call him the 1 to 2 percentile of relationships because he stuck around, he
Mhm.
actually found out that she was molested by family members coming up.
Mm.
And that never came out in counseling.
Mhm.
Mm.
And so sometimes it's good to stick, if you've been hurt, sometimes it's good to stick around to find out why. It wasn't just because that individual found that amusing or they just
Mhm.
wanted to try something. There's
Mhm.
probably some historical data that exists that
Mhm.
need to be checked. And now,
Some
guess what?
unresolved trauma.
They've been
Mhm.
right. And they're like this to this day because he made a decision. I am going to stick around and find out what or how my significant other had been violated.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
And he had nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
Wow.
that yeah, I had a friend, and he told me that he was married to his wife for a while, and one day he was tickling her, and it just triggered something because she was actually molested by her dad, and in that moment, I don't know if he tickled her before, but in that moment, it just triggered something in her, and she was traumatized, and it was just like, wow, it's there's a lot of stuff, that, I think people hide away because we get so used to hiding ourselves because we're trying to be that representative and be that version of yourself that others and everyone else will accept, that sometimes we keep hiding, 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 shrinking, shrinking, shrinking till it's just like, who are you?
Yeah.
So great point. Great point. And we have our last question. And anyone in the chat, if you guys have a question, feel free to throw it in the chat. I know we covered a lot of stuff, so you may not, but if you do, throw it in the chat. Um, so the last question is, oh yeah, okay. So did your partner or spouse change, or did you not know them to begin with? So I'm just putting this out here, and we can, discuss this. A lot of times, this could be the situation. So, doctor, if you could touch on it.
I mean, I think it's a combination. I do think that throughout the course of a relationship, your partner is constantly changing. But
Mhm.
I also think when a person first gets into a relationship, you don't always see them fully. A lot of times people wear masks, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's not intentional. It's subconscious because they've been hurt in the past by family members, friends, partners. So what they do is they present the face that they believe you want to see. And it's
Mhm.
only as the relationship deepens and they get more comfortable that you start to recognize, oh, wow, I thought they were like this and they
Mhm.
actually weren't.
Mm.
But I think that one of the things that you have to keep in mind is there's a difference between a person who developed an adaptation where they
Mm.
kind of put up a facade before they know they can trust you and then they reveal that, versus a person who puts on a mask to lure you in. And then once
Mhm.
they have you, they change it up. So I
Mm.
think you have to kind of be mindful of who are you dealing with? Is this a
Right.
situation where, my partner has been through a lot and it took them some time before they felt comfortable enough to open up? Or is this a situation where this person portrayed themselves to be someone that they're not? If it's the
Mhm.
second situation, that's a red flag, something you should watch out for. But if
Mhm.
it's the first situation, that's something that you can have a meaningful conversation about. And that falls again underneath that category of learning your spouse or learning who your partner is and
Mm.
allowing your partner to teach you on who they are.
Mm. That's good. I like that. Pastor.
Okay. I like how the Doc started off again. I have some do change, but some things are just magnified.
Mm.
They
Mm.
were, money will magnify who you are.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, because
You,
you're gonna act a fool. Like you're gonna act
you,
how you
you
really want to act. You're like, oh, I'm rich.
yeah. Or you'll say, money didn't change me. Your address changed, your
Right.
hairstyle has changed,
Hmm.
your car symbol changed, right? But then
Hmm.
again, some things are just magnified. It is who you are.
Right.
And you can't, like she was saying, you come into a particular relationship. You don't want anybody to know that you are a hothead, right? But
Hmm.
but technically you are. But you was able to kind of soothe things over and hide it behind that whole infatuation stage, right? And
Hmm.
so that person never really knew that part of you because you hid it so well. And
Mm.
one thing I like about my wife and I, we dated right.
Right.
A lot of people don't date right.
Hmm.
See, when we went on dates, and I'm probably call old fat, we took other people with us. The first time we kissed is when our pastor said, "You may now kiss the bride." See,
Oh
we
wow.
kept ourselves.
Yes.
See, and nobody, a lot of people don't want to do that now. But when we did come together, we had because we waited 2 years so we got married. We had surpassed the standard 18 months of infatuation stage, right?
Hmm.
Mm.
So the truth was out there. We
Mm.
knew one another. But
Mm.
I personally, and I don't want to get off your topic, I think what happens is when we involve sexual interactions, that
Mhm.
causes some different glasses to be on our face. We look through different types of lenses now because of that connection that we have. But when you wait this thing out, the beauty on the other side,
Mhm.
I'm
Mm.
telling you, it is
Mm.
like that. So I think that some people change and some things are just are magnified.
Hmm.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. That's so good. Yeah, sometimes it's just a lot of times that I've heard from individuals like this person they change, but it's just like, well, you didn't know them that long, and did they change that much in 2 months? Like in the 2 months, you can't even take it serious. Just like enjoy the ride, like just have fun, getting to know each other and stuff. But like a lot of that stuff in the beginning, it's just
Hmm.
like, okay, it sounds good, but we're gonna take it with a grain of salt
Hmm.
because we don't know each other. We can still be perfect in that first couple of months.
Yep, very true.
Especially if you only see them on the weekend. Like, listen, I could be perfect. You're like, dang, she's an angel
Right.
on the weekend. So, I mean,
this
I'm
angel,
pretty
this
good,
angel
but I'm
got
not
a
an angel.
this angel got a piss for it, right? Instead of the halo, this angel got.
Sometimes.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't think we have any questions, but I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity because that was the last of our questions to let the audience know where they can find you if they would like to get in contact with you or follow you on social media. If you could let us know that now, Dr. Dayo, you can go first.
All right. So my IG is at Dr. Dyona. That's at DRDYONA. And then I also blog at drdyona.com. And then they're also going to put my information for the Mental Health Sisters, which is an organization that my sister and I founded to ensure that everybody has access to culturally competent mental health services,
Mm,
especially women of color in our community.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Pastor Christopher.
Also, my IG is Christopher J. Dot 3 C. Christopher as in CHRIS. Um, TOPHER. J as in Juliet. Dot 3. And also, you can catch me on some of the other social media platforms, Facebook. I have an audience over there as well. But most importantly, you can catch me on Instagram.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for this conversation. I loved it. I know people in the chat, they were active. They were very active today. So they were feeling it too. So I appreciate you both for taking out the time on this Sunday evening, especially you, Pastor, because I know you probably had a lot going on today.
Yeah,
So,
you better know that I love you. May I throw my save round out there?
yes.
Okay, so I can't be a pastor and not give you something I believe in. Colossians
Okay.
chapter 2, verse 9 and 10 says, well, I'll start with verse 10. So you also are complete. The word complete in Greek means filled to the brim through
Hmm.
your union with Christ. Now, that's what, of course, I believe in through my pastors, Mr. and Mrs. Freeman, who have taught me extremely well. And so that's where that completeness comes from. I appreciate your topic so much. And I hope we've given the people something to think about. Thank you. And I appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you both. And to the audience, thank you for spending this time with us. And until next time, good night.
Good.